So I guess instead of talking about the market right away and everything being a bloodbath and biggest liquidations in crypto we've seen ever, let's get into some of the reasons why, I guess, or what's speculated is why.
Yeah. Because the losses were intense, and it kind of came out of the blue. But we do know that there has been some changes in U.S. politics since January, what was it, 21st?
Trumping.
Trumping. Yeah. Tariffs might be the ultimate culprit for this insane sell-off.
With some market makers and low liquidity over weekends.
Yeah, liquidity on weekends tends to be slower. So, from what I've come to understand, Trump is imposing tariffs immediately. Like 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 10% more on China, and sudden, like very quick. People were expecting these tariffs to come, but not so soon.
Yeah, most of these tariffs some of them were like right away, and I believe others are starting like as of tomorrow. The majority of these tariffs should all be in place, on top of whatever tariffs they already have.
Yeah. So tariff war
has started.
Yeah.
So inflation is on the rise again at this point.
Well, yeah, because if tariffs go up and the cost of goods go up,
that's inflationary right away.
Yeah, and the Fed will likely start raising their interest rates.
Or cutting.
You think they'll cut it?
So, well, let's get into tariffs first before we get into what the Fed might do next in the next meetings.
Okay.
So, did you see the reasons why Trump is placing these tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China?
So, I don't know why specifically. I do believe that there is like the trade agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States is coming up to an end like next year. And these tariffs might be like some way of showing force, I guess, for specifically Mexico and Canada. But that's just a hypothesis. Is there like a definitive reason?
Yeah, so the reasoning he said was where I have it here. So essentially the reason the reasons for Mexico and Canada specifically and some of China was because of the increased inflow of fentanyl into the US. And then it was illegal immigration from both Canada and Mexico, and somewhat China, but more so China's side was just the amount of fentanyl coming into the U.S. via them, being exported via their countries.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not sure why it would. I guess I would agree with you in showing force and being like, do what we want, or we're gonna tariff you. Mm-hmm. And then ideally, I would believe the idea is you're going to force manufacturing to some degree, because not all of it can be moved, but you're going to be forcing them to move out and look to other places to import into the U.S. And especially like certain goods, force consumers not to buy because of the higher prices. For the most part, tariffs, as everyone knows, are bearish for markets, especially the markets who are putting them on those, implementing them, because it affects their own consumers, especially since America is such a heavy importer from all three countries. Well, maybe not so much Canada, but more so Mexico and China.
We import a lot from Canada. I think it's mostly lumber and energy, though.
So that's the thing, though. Energy doesn't have the same tariff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, energy products like oil, natural gas, and I think there was something else. Yeah. Give me one second.
I feel like those just sum it up pretty substantially.
I think there was a third. Oh, and electricity, because we also implement.
Yeah, just straight up raw. Just straight
raw
up electricity. Power. Okay.
Yeah. So for the most part, Canada's tariffs all around 25% for all imports, except for energy resources. Those are getting only a 10% tariff.
Okay.
So it's quite a bit less.
Yeah, but still tariffed more than.
It's still tariff. Yeah, still 10%. Your prices of those goods will still go up, but it's not as drastic as a 25%.
Yeah.
But the main reason is for illegal immigration and influx of fentanyl and other drugs into the U.S. from Canada, and then on Mexico's side was also same illegal immigration and then just drug trafficking as a whole.
Interesting.
And then as it goes for China, the administration aims to hold China accountable for its role in production and distribution of fentanyl, which has contributed to the opioid crisis. It says here, that's from the government. That's their response on it. Not 100% sure if we can say the opioid pandemic is to blame on China.
Yeah, I feel like that's a smokescreen of sorts. Like he's saying it's for this, with the idea of like probably like trying to fix that issue with fentanyl being imported, but not really it not really being the true culprit.
Yeah.
Because like I know China has been purchasing and investing a lot in Mexico for their warehouses and manufacturing, so to try to avoid Chinese tariffs from importing to America. Like investing in Mexico doesn't have the same tariffs. I mean, they're also investing in like the Panama Canal, where apparently China has a good portion of stake into the Panama Canal.
So I just read today on X that Panama will start allowing U.S. Navy ships to go in for free, and they're going to start cutting back on the agreement they had with China that comes to an end in 2027, I think, or relatively.
So, yeah, the whole Panama Canal thing is like an actual shit show, to put it frank. The people running it apparently did not have much oversight and missed a lot of things going on in terms of management and investments from China. I believe the Panama Canal was actually like funded mostly by U.S. funds and workers. And
when it was like originally or now?
Originally.
Well, we built it. Well, we finished building it.
Yeah, and then we just at some point just gave it to them.
Yeah, I forgot what president was agreed to give it back to him at the end of like 1999 or something, and that's when. But we had it for a good like 10, 15 year stretch. That was just ours. Like we had free use of it, and it was owned. Like we had a strip of land that was owned by us after the French gave up on the canal for various different reasons.
Yeah, so I don't think that the fentanyl thing is the only reason, and the what is it, the immigration.
No, I don't. I think there's bigger things at play that we just don't know about. That's upper brass for sure.
Yeah,
they're gonna try to figure out. But it does affect the market greatly, and it could. And we will most likely see inflation rise due to these tariffs because of prices going up. Because everything will cost about 25% more coming in from Mexico, and Canada in another 10, 50, maybe 10% more. Realistically, 10% more from China itself.
Yep.
Which then we would have to wait and see what those companies decide to do and where they decide to move their operations to.
Yeah. So like if you're planning on buying Coronas for like, I don't know, $20, now it's going to cost $25.
Prices go up.
That's inflation.
Prices go up. That's inflation. And so now we'll just have to wait and see what these companies decide to do and how they decide to manage, and wait and see how much pain it causes to the U.S. market as a whole. Especially since if the idea was to add tariffs and then reduce taxes, which that hasn't happened yet, and he hasn't spoken about that end. Because it's a little different if you're taxing us less, meaning we're keeping more of our money, even if goods cost a bit more, but we're keeping it on one side. And then you decide where you're buying and spending, which that hasn't happened yet.
Yep, that's the issue with governments. They like to raise our costs, but don't really cut anywhere.
Exactly.
Once they ask for more money in taxes, they rarely ask for less money in taxes somewhere else.
Correct. And then we would also have to wait and see if these countries decide to come to the table and see what they can work around within themselves.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a whole discussion trading.
Because on that note, Canada has also put tariffs on U.S. goods for Canadians.
Oh, wow. Yeah, makes sense.
Well, they did the same thing. I don't remember the amount right now, but I think it was like 25-15%. And they're actually doing it a little slower. There are some tariffs that are coming in right away, and then there's others that are they're going to give about to the end of February, about a 30-day window, so they can see where they're going to outsource their goods that they need imported for their supply chains.
Yeah, tariffs placed on us by other countries will essentially mean that our goods cost more for the other countries, therefore it should lower the amount of sales that we actually produce.
Yeah. But yeah, tariffs are good and bad. Like, example would be on goods that we don't produce at all, it's going to really affect us. But on goods we do produce already within the US, those might become more competitive compared to other markets.
Yeah.
Like, example would be China. China creates steel. The US also creates steel. But as of right now, we buy more steel from China since we're able to get it much cheaper than what it costs in the US. This 10% tariff could bring that closer to a balance where companies can decide whether they choose American-made steel or Chinese-made steel.
Yeah.
And save on that. Or make the cost it costs just about the same.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea should be to like bring manufacturing and production back to the United States.
And realistically, that just won't happen.
Yeah, I find it unlikely.
It's unlikely. Costs to produce within the US is just too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that we'll have to wait and see. And of course, as tariffs were announced, market cooled off throughout the weekend. It was holding fairly well, and then Sunday night, Asia market opens, and they're like, we're back to selling everything, and they just start getting rid of anything and everything that can exist. Stocks as well as apart from, crypto is being sold off.
Yep, crypto took a massive plunge. And the reason why they're selling is because of the expected price increase in the future. It's better to have money on hand rather than deployed, just so that it's easier to make purchases.